What's up guys, Garrett here, and today is a good one. We're going shop insulation, and insulation may not sound that terribly exciting, but for me, I am so excited about this. This means that I can get my shop heated and cooled. But of course, before I put those systems in, it makes way more sense to seal this place up as well as insulate. So that's what this is about. Make sure to stick around until the end. I'm going to share exactly how much all of this cost. When I built the shop, it already had 1 inch of foam board sitting on top of the roof purlins. And that gives me roughly an R5. It also had a foil face on both the top and the bottom side of it. So again, about an R5, which is way better than nothing. But if you are trying to heat and cool an area like this, even if it's just every so often, there's just no way you can get a foothold with that little of insulation up there. And last year I put in R13 fiberglass bats in all of the walls. All of my wall stud spacing was perfect for those R13 bats, and so that made the most sense. But since all I had was an R5 in that roof, I needed more, and so I looked at several different options. The first, of course, was fiberglass bats, just like I did in the walls. The problem was the trusses, the way they were built, the purlins, the roof purlins, were on 25-inch centers. And of course, those fiberglass bats are made for 24-inch on center, meaning that not even the paper, I couldn't get it to stretch far enough to be able to tack it on both sides of those roof purlins. Plus, it would have left me with an inch gap between the fiberglass insulation and that roof purlin, which then just negates the whole insulation at that point. So fiberglass was out. Rock wool as well as denim just didn't make any sense. It's way too expensive. I looked at buying rigid foam sheets as well, and then I would just cut them to the width that I want and glue them up in place. But even those were really expensive. My shop is 3,150 square feet, so it's big. Well, what I really wanted was spray foam, but that spray foam is extremely expensive. So if I was looking at even just 1 inch of closed cell spray foam, it was going to be a little over $1 per square foot to have them install it, and that's great. Having them install things is awesome. Of course, I'm in a shop that I have tons and tons of stuff in, so I would have to clear out the entire thing for them to do this project. Plus, at $1 per square foot, again, it's going to be in the roof square footage, it's going to be like 3,400 square feet. That's a lot of money, and realistically, I'd like to get 2 inches of the closed cell spray foam, which would have been about $7,000. Well, I'm not made of money. That ain't happening. So what was I left with? Blown in cellulose insulation, which is exactly what I used on my main house. The main thing though is I was not planning to cover the bottom side of my roof, which meant that I needed something that was going to hold that in place. Well, I'm sure you've seen it before too, where they put this white mesh basically over the walls and then they blow in the insulation to fill those wall cavities. Well, it can work in ceiling applications too. And so that's the way that I'd went. I hadn't seen anyone else do this out in their shop, so I wanted to give it a shot. And if I did all the math, it was supposed to cost a little under $1,100. And I was going to be able to fill that entire 2x6 cavity where those purlins are and get a much better R value at the end of it. And cellulose is a great air barrier. Big thing though, make sure that your shop does not leak. You do not want to have water coming in contact with that cellulose. It's going to get really heavy and it's going to compact that cellulose to where it loses its efficiency. Step one is to get an insulation blanket just like this. As you can see, it's just kind of a netting. This is the brand that I got, InsulMax, 9 foot by 300 feet long. Got it from Menards. Next, just measure from the edge of your ceiling all the way up to your peak. You can do it the entire length, but it gets pretty unruly that way. If you can just keep it section by section, that's probably a better way to go. Cut your individual links and then you're ready to put them up. When you're putting these up, you're gonna have to have 2 people. So you have someone that's in this corner and someone that is in this corner. Tack one corner in, pull it tight, tack the other corner in, and then move to the other side. Pull it diagonally, tack that in, and then again, pull it diagonally, tack that in. And from that point on, you can put all of your nails or your staples, whatever you choose to use, to hold it up in place. Most of the pros use staples to do it. They have very special staple guns that shoot out a whole lot of staples real fast, but I didn't have that. I had roofing nails, so since they have a nice big thick head on them, I just use those. When you are filling your cavity, you have a couple of options. You can make little slits in that paper and then just stick your hose up in there. Or, since I was doing it from truss to truss, I just left the edge down. I can pull that edge back, stick my hose all the way in, and then fill while retracting that hose slowly. As you can see, this is a finished section, so I did part of my shop, and then today I'm going to do the rest of it. But you can see the bow in the fabric, so I have all the insulation in there. As I said, you draw out that hose slowly, and you can kind of tell as you're drawing it out just how much bow there is by how much density you're getting in there. And while you want to get it as dense packed as possible just to give you the best R value, you also don't want to put too much pressure on any of that fabric. So it's just kind of a fine game that you'll figure out as you go. Scaffolding is definitely a must, as well as a variety of different ladders. Depends on how tall your ceilings are, of course, but mine are pretty darn tall. So I've got a 12-foot and a 10-foot, as well as that 6-foot. Don't forget about safety whenever you start blowing in this insulation. You're definitely going to want some sort of a respirator. You don't want this stuff in your lungs. I recommend some swim goggles for this. I've tried the safety glasses, and they just goes right around the safety glasses. It hurts when it gets in your eyes. So something that seals. Plus, these are small enough that they don't come in contact with that respirator, and they still seal to my face, as well as just covering the top of your head, especially your ears if you can. This is just a welding cap. And here is the after. Looks really nice, doesn't it? Whole place is completely done. And shoot, I even got the floor all nice and clean. A couple hours of sweeping plus a little bit of compressed air and a nice cross breeze, because I have, this is the south garage door as well as the north garage door. Open those up, blows that dust just right on out. But it looks so much better than what it used to. You know, it was pretty darn dark up there, and just having that white blanket on there is going to reflect a whole lot of light for me, and I can already tell the space has deadened quite a bit as far as sound goes. We did have some sprinkles the other day, and normally that's pretty darn loud. This probably cut the sound down in half. I think this whole thing turned out really, really well. Of course, it would be a lot easier if your shop was completely empty. Mine wasn't. I had everything in it. So we covered everything that we could, rolled out some of the vehicles, or just pushed them back and forth. But remember, when you do this, when you're blowing in cellulose insulation, it is dusty and you're going to get stuff everywhere. So keep that in mind. You're going to spend some time cleaning. So if you have the choice to do this at your new build stage of your shop, that's the time to do it. But it is not impossible to do it after that point. I'm proof of this. The nice thing was the blowing machine was free. I just had to put down a deposit and then I get it right back whenever I am done. Plus I did my entire shop in 2 different stages. So the first stage was an entire day of blowing insulation in. The second was half a day. But the machine was free, so everything that I had, I got the insulation from Lowe's. If you buy a certain amount, they'll give you bulk pricing, so keep that in mind also. The total cost was $1,020.60. That's everything that I had into it. So a little over $1,000, and I have a really good insulated roof, which is getting me ready for the HVAC systems that I'm going to install in this shop. Another video to come. So if you break down that cost per the floor square footage that I have, so it's a 3,150 square foot shop, ends up being 32 cents per square foot to do that job. That's really good. I don't know my exact density on the cellulose insulation in there, but I know I'm filling that entire 2x6 cavity. So I'm estimating that what I added in there was between an R16 and an R18. And then of course I had that 1 inch of foam, which was an R5. So I'm in the low R20s for a total package up there. And while not completely adequate for, say, your residential house, awesome for a shop, and especially a shop that's not going to be heated and cooled all the time. I'm really just going to heat and cool it when I'm using it. A couple of quick tips for you. When I was blowing this insulation in, I needed a little bit of control of that hose that I was sticking in those cavities, and so I duct taped a paint stick to it that was 6-7 feet long so that I could control that wand as I needed it. Another tip, like I said earlier, PPE. Your eyes, your mouth, your respirator, I mean, just covering your head the best that you possibly can. You are going to be completely covered in cellulose by the end of this project. Another tip with your eyewear, if you're using swim goggles like what I did, they can fog up. So if you can either get some sort of anti-fogging type stuff that you can put inside those lenses, or if you can do it on a cool day, it'll help you from overheating basically. You're going to be up in your roof, which of course heat rises, so it's going to be warmer up there where you are versus where you are on the floor. So it's going to get hotter, and that's what I ran into whenever I was doing this. It was actually really cool on the floor, but as I got up there it was getting kind of warm, and I started sweating, which then of course fogged up my glasses. So you can definitely take breaks to clean them off. Not a big deal, but you'll figure it out. Last tip, make sure that you have some sort of cross ventilation going through your shop, especially if you have, like in my case, a door at one end, a door at the other. Open them up, wait for kind of a breezy day, and then as you are blowing this insulation in, that fine dust that comes out of this will be carried right on through. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit that like button down below as well as subscribe. I'll see you next time.